Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. In this OpenTx snippet, I'll show you how to mix spoilerons. The idea behind spoilerons is they're intended to create drag on the airfoil. I have one airplane, for example, the Tower Hobby Sport, that just kind of likes to sail down the runway. It just sails down the runway and doesn't like to set down. Normally, your ailerons work opposing each other. So one goes up, the other goes down. Spoilerons are kind of like the inverse of flaps. Normally, if you have flaps, you put your flaps down, they both go down together. But spoilerons both go up together. The idea is to induce drag and help the plane set down. So I'm going to show you how to mix that on the radio today. Before we get into the configuration, let's look at what I've got set up on the radio right now. On the input page, I just have the 4 basic channels: aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. And on my mixer, I've got 2 ailerons. Now, in order for this to work, you do need to have your ailerons on their own discrete receiver channels. You cannot use a Y cable and have this work. They've got to be on different channels. So I've got ailerons on channels 1 and 2, and I've got elevator on channel 3. We don't really need the elevator for spoilerons, but I know somebody's going to ask the question, well, what if you get nose up or nose down? I'll show you how to make a little mix to correct that just in case. I'd like to give you a tip first on setting up mixes that'll help you along the way when you create your own mixes for whatever it is you want to do. Pay attention to this bar down here on the bottom and notice that it's the red one. Aileron 1 is red, and if we look in the mixer, I want to point out that the red bar is output. So this is what is actually going to leave the radio and go to the receiver. The red bar is the one we want to pay attention to, at least in this theme, okay? So I'll get to why in just a moment, but pay attention to the red bar. On an RC plane, if you take your aileron stick and move it to the right, your right aileron will go up. So notice what happens when I'm on channel 1, this aileron, when I move the stick to the right, this aileron's output also goes to the right. It's not always like that, okay? So I just want to point this out, that it's not always like that. So pay attention to the red bar, and you can see that in order for the first aileron to go up, this red bar needs to go to the right. That'll come in handy when we're making our mix in the mixer. And then likewise, on channel 2, if I want the channel 2 aileron to go up, I'll push the stick to the left, and notice that it also goes to the right. What that means is when we make our mix, we want both ailerons to go in the same direction. The red bar should go to the right. Okay, let's make the mix. On channel 1, I'll click on the jog dial and hit Insert After, and I'm going to just create a mix, and we'll call it SPL. And our source for this mix is going to be my left slider. I like using my slider when I'm doing things like flaps and gear. All I did was click on the source field, and when it started blinking, I moved my slider, and that changes the source to be the left slider. The next thing we want to do is set a weight, and this is where that bar starts to become important. So look at the weight. Right now it's at 100%. Now, when I have a spoileron set up, I want my spoilerons down or closed when this slider is down. To me, that means everything's shut down. It's down. So I want the spoilers, because spoilers go up, I want this left slider to be in the down position. You can do it however you want. I'm just showing you how I do it. However you want to do it is fine. You pick what works for you. I like my spoileron control to be all the way down when the spoilers are closed. And then when I push that left slider up, then I want the spoilers to go up. Notice this red bar at the bottom, and I've got a weight of -100 because my slider is all the way down. So in this condition, my spoileron should be flat, level, whatever the normal trim is if everything is hands off. So the way we're going to correct that is I'm going to set the weight to 10%, reduce the weight to 10%, and then we'll also set the offset to 10%. Okay, now remember when we did our testing earlier and we moved this aileron surface, remember that output, when that aileron goes up, that red bar goes to the right. So that tells me that with that spoileron control moved all the way forward and that red bar going to the right, that means I've got the positive versus negative value of the weight set correctly. For the next aileron, notice that I have a weight of 100%, but if we look at the channel monitor and I move my stick to the right, the output goes to the left. The reason for that this time is because I used the reverse in outputs. I've been showing you guys how to create mixes using positive and negative values, but you can also use outputs to reverse, and I'll show you what the output looks like real quick. Right here on the right-hand side for channel 1, the arrow goes right. On channel 2, the arrow goes left. That means I reverse the servo. That works too. You just have to pay attention to what's going on here. So I've got a 100% weight for aileron on channel 1. I've got a 100% weight for the aileron on channel 2. That means that this value for the slider is going to have to be inverted. So I'm going to press on the jog dial, copy this field, and then scroll down to channel 2, just below channel 2, and I'll paste that value in. I have to cut in and make an edit here. When I went to set up my slider for the spoileron on the second channel, I moved the original one instead of copied it. I just wanted to show you that I did correct that again. So I have my slider set up as a mix on channel 1 and 2. Okay? All right, we're back in the monitor now, and I just want to cover the basic operation again. So I'm going to move my aileron stick to the right, and notice that the mixer shows the stick going right in both channels 1 and 2, but the outputs on channel 1 go right, and the output on channel 2 goes left. That's normal function. When I let go of the stick and move my slider all the way up now, you can ignore the mix output because that's not what's going to the servo. The red lines are what's going to the servos. Notice the outputs show both ailerons going up. That's a spoileron. Okay, so I can bring the spoileron down by reducing the slider to 0. Spoileron's up by pushing the slider all the way up. And then notice that the ailerons are still functional. Okay, one other thing that I want to show you just in case you need it. I don't need it when I fly with spoilerons, but I'm going to show you how to add a mix to the elevator to compensate. So let's say, for example, that when you deploy spoilerons, your plane pitches down. That means you need a little up elevator. So when we look at the elevator channel and pull back on the stick, we can see the output for the elevator in OpenTx goes to the left. So when we deploy those spoilerons, we need that elevator to come to the left just a couple of ticks. Let's go ahead and copy this slider line. And we'll drag it and paste it right below the elevator, right there. And we'll see what happens when I deploy the spoiler. Does it go left? Yep, there it goes. So it's going left, which has the same impact as pulling back on the stick. And if that's too much elevator, you simply go in and edit this field and drop it down, say, to negative, I don't know, -7. And we'll change this one to -7 as well. And then when we close this, we can see that with the spoiler closed, there's no impact on the elevator. And with the spoiler fully deployed, we get 14% of travel instead of 20. Let's look at it in the channel monitor. Okay, spoiler's closed, ailerons work, elevator works, everything works the way it's supposed to. Now let's deploy the spoilers. I'll push the slider up and we can see both ailerons went up and so did the elevator. Remember, in this configuration, my elevator goes up when I pull back on the stick and that bar goes to the left. So when I deploy the spoiler in this case, we need that red bar to move to the left. If for some reason your airplane pitches up when you deploy spoilers, all you got to do is invert the weight that I used in this spot right here. So instead of -7, you use +7, and then same thing for your offset. There you go, you now know how to make a spoileron mix in OpenTx. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of material, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy. Hey, if you like the work I do here on RC Video Reviews, please consider joining me on Patreon. For about the price of a cup of coffee, you can help me keep making videos just like this one. If you'd like to help out, there's a link in the description and on your screen.